So you've hurt your back and you want some quick relief. Do you reach for heat or ice? This is a question we get a lot in our practice, and the answer is actually starting to change. My name is Dr. Robin Armstrong. I'm a chiropractor at Willowbrook Chiropractic in Langley, and today we're going to discuss which is better, heat or ice, when you have a new injury. Well, first let's understand what each of those does. So ice is excellent at pain relief and numbing the area, either by numbing the nerve endings or suppressing and bringing down the inflammation. Heat is good at relaxing spasming muscles. It helps tight, stiff joints get moving a little bit better, and it can be quite soothing. Now, when you injure yourself, inflammation is a natural part of the healing process, and it can actually be a good thing because it sets your body up for those next stages of recovery. So we now actually know that for soft tissue injuries or for a back injury, we want to avoid anti-inflammatory medication. There's no evidence that it helps, and there's some evidence that it can actually slow down recovery. So if you're reaching for a medication, you're going to be wanting to do more pain relieving medication versus anti-inflammatory. Now, we used to think RICE when it comes to a new injury. Rest, ice, compress, and elevate. But now the new approach is peace and love. And this actually takes into account not just those first 24 to 48 hours, but also the weeks following things. So peace is protection. So we want to avoid those movements that increase the pain in the first few days. Elevate, avoid anti-inflammatory medication. Compress, so this is more relevant when we're talking about an ankle injury or a wrist injury. You know, you can use that tensor bandage or that compression sleeve to help bring down swelling. And educate, so we want to understand a little bit better about what is the natural healing process for this injury. Then love. So we want to load. So as soon as it's appropriate, we want to get back to those activities of daily living and challenge our body to move a little bit more. We want to use optimism. Our body has an innate ability to heal and recover, and we want to think positively about our body's ability to overcome this injury. V, vascularization. So that just means blood flow. We want to get some general movement and exercise that increases blood flow to the whole area, not just the area that's injured. Now, I understand that with back injuries, this becomes a little bit more complicated because our movement is affected, but we want to try and get back to that as soon as we can, as well as exercise. So we want to do some exercises specific to our injury to help overcome our injury. So even though ice has been recommended for many years as the conventional wisdom, there's not actually good research to show that it helps speed up our recovery. So now my advice to patients is, if you find that ice is helpful for pain relief in those first 24 hours, then you can use that in moderation, but that you might want to think about switching to heat. So heat is going to calm down those muscle spasms and enable you to get moving a little bit better. So get back to being able to load and increase our vascularization and do some specific exercises, and that is going to bring around your recovery a little bit faster. Now, we actually sell a gel pack in our office at cost. We have a small one and a large one, and it can either be frozen if you put it in the freezer, or you can stick it in the microwave and heat it up. So you can just ask our front desk if you're interested in purchasing one. Now, the attitudes and approaches to using heat and ice are changing, so feel free to ask myself, Dr. Robin Armstrong, or Dr. Jody Freedman if you have any questions about what I talked about here today. If you want to book online with us, you can book in at willowbrookchiropractic.com. We post regular content under Willowbrook Chiropractic on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.